Good evening. I call to order this regular meeting of the Verona Township Council, Tuesday, the 12th of November, 2024. Madam Clerk, would you please read the Open Public Meetings Act compliance statement?
The notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied with respect to this meeting of the Township Council. The meeting time and date were included in the public meeting notice, along with the public internet link and telephone call-in information. Said notice and meeting agenda was posted in the municipal building and sent to the official newspapers of the township, the Verona City Grove Times and the Star Ledger, at least 48 hours preceding the start time of this meeting. The agenda and public handouts can be viewed online at www.veronanj.org/council meetings. Public comment period will be held in the orders listed on the meeting agenda, and instructions on how to comment will be provided at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Holland? Here. Councilman Roman?
Here.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy?
Present.
Mayor Tamboro?
Here.
Mayor also present tonight is Township Attorney Brian Aloya, Township Manager Joseph Jericho, Deputy Township Manager Kevin O'Sullivan, myself, Municipal Clerk Jennifer Kiernan.
Thank you. Just for the record, Councilman Roman is joining us remotely. See, thank you. Everybody, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Finally, fall. Based on the weather outside, a couple items on my agenda this evening. I had the pleasure of attending the Multicultural Inclusion and Accessibility Advisory Committee Diwali celebration, which was a really lovely night. Was honored to be invited to light candles and to speak to the group as well. And so thank you to the MAAC and Toll Hotel and everybody who put that together. We had our Veterans Day observance yesterday at the Civic Center. It was a pleasure to see so many veterans out, including our very own Mr. Diarco. It was a very nice showing, and it was nice to see everybody, and it was nice to remember all of our former servicemen and women and the ones that are still out there. My full speech is available in writing on the website, and if you want to watch a video of the entire ceremony, that is out there as well. So thank you to our township administration, especially Christine Gould and Lisa Northrup, and our buildings ground staff, Public Works, and our police department for really putting together that beautiful ceremony. I wish to remember today Sal Rosamilia. Mr. Rosamilia was one of our crossing guards for a long time for the Verona Police Department on the Grove Avenue by the intersection with the high school. It was a very lovely man and is very missed. So please keep Mr. Rosamilia and his family thoughts. I do want to acknowledge that we have been in an unprecedented forest fire season in New Jersey. I have actually responded to one of them myself in an incident management capacity. The Verona EMS assisted at that one as well. And our fire department has now responded to several mutual aid to assist with structural protection and brush firefighting. So thank you to everybody who is out there and continues. The situation works until we see significant improvement with respect to rain and things like that. So hoping everybody is able to stay until then. And just between now and then, please do not have any fires in your backyards. Anything like propane is fine, but any open fires, even chimney or anything like that, is unacceptable. I'd like to thank Ms. Kiernan, our township clerk, for running a successful election in Verona. Last week, it was well put together, and nobody seemed to have any complaints, which is great. I was able to vote and get in and out in the morning, and Ms. Kiernan able and available to answer calls from us. So thank you to you. Mrs. Kiernan, and to all of our poll workers, from our experienced poll workers to our students, for making it a very good day. And congratulations to all those who won election during last week. The Environmental Commission meets this Wednesday at 7 o'clock, 7:30. Please join. The Environmental Commission is hosting a environmental cleanup at the end of Park Place this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Anybody is welcome to attend. There's no pre-registration necessary, just show up. Okay. The Verona Public Library Foundation is hosting its annual gala event this Thursday at 7 o'clock at the library. So if you would like to be loud in the library, this is your opportunity. They are still selling tickets. So please join us there for a very fun evening with food and beverages, and Max Morton and friends, one of our local musicians, will be performing. So please, if you can attend, I ask that you consider recognizing the Library Foundation with your donations. The Women's Club of Verona Share Light Night is coming up. There's still time to order your luminaries. Because of the wildfire risk, that they are doing battery-powered luminaries this year. So please order those. And finally, the Verona Clergy Council Thanksgiving service will be held traditionally as it has the Sunday before Thanksgiving. This year is at the Holy Spirit in Church on Gould Street. So please join us for that ecumenical service. Mr. Coltrane, our county liaison.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Hopefully everybody's staying warm. And a couple of things. Number one, I just want to make sure you're aware that the Star Ledger, effective February 1st, will no longer be issuing. There is a Senate bill that I received from NJAC today. I just forwarded it to the town clerk. And hopefully they can address it, because it impacts purchasing and all the other notices that must be.
We have a resolution on our addendum to call upon the legislature to fix that.
Well, there is a Senate bill, and if you open your email, I sent you two. I sent you one wrong one, and one is the correct one, from John Donadio, the attorney for NJAC. That being said, the 21st of November, we are distributing 1,000 turkeys and 1,000 food boxes at the Cherry Blossom Center, which is off Heller Parkway in the city of Newark. It starts at 9 a.m., but I would recommend getting there 7:30, 8 o'clock. First come, first serve. It's a great event, and there's only 1,000 boxes and 1,000 turkeys. Moving into the holiday season, you should have all received a postcard or a card. We're starting our holiday lights, which is Friday to Sunday, November 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, and it opens at 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then Friday, November 29th to Wednesday, December 4th. And then from Friday, December 6th to the end of the year, December 31st. Again, it's 5 to 9 p.m. If you can bring a coat or non-perishable food, we would appreciate it. And on the back of the card, there is also the Essex County Historic Holiday Tour, Saturday, December 7th, and Sunday, December 8th from 12 to 5 p.m. Check with the Essex County Parks website, and you'll get the locations of the decorated homes. That being said, anything from council?
Thank you, Mayor.
I just want to say thank you to the county for their, I cleaned out my garages and went to hazardous waste this weekend, and they do such a great job lining people through, getting them through, emptying their cars, and there's a lot of dangerous stuff that they pull out of those cars, and if you mix it up, it could be something bad. But they do a wonderful job getting you through, getting you in there, and getting you out in a very timely manner. So
This probably was the largest amount of participants that we've had
Yeah.
and materials that we have to dispose of.
yeah, usually I went like probably 1:30 and there's usually never a line. It was still halfway down Grove Avenue, but I went through in probably not even 10 minutes.
Wonderful.
So they did a great job. Thank the county executive for that.
And there was a correspondence between police chief and Sanjeev, and they're working on traffic patterns at the new location by the community center. So things are we're working on it. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jay.
thank you. Have a good night.
You too. On to the Township Manager's report, Mr. Gioka.
Thank you, Mayor. In closed sessions, and I don't have two items. We received some almost completed signs for every field. Today I was reviewing them. Kevin will report on that. The parking lot signage program, thank you to the chamber. There is only one sign left. And that'll be complete that project. I hope everyone like the veterans banners that are up. And I'll have a policy in front of the council next meeting. Those banners. The recreation field uses report that's been hanging on here for a while. Dave in recreation has gotten the final comments from the Board of Education, and he'll be reviewing those with the Recreation Advisory Committee. I did have a meeting, it's not listed on my agenda, it was to be item 22, which is blank. I brought in the Bloomfield Health Department and the county health officer with our entire staff. So that transition will go smoothly for January. Staff was very pleased with that meeting and the people that they met from our new health services that will be coming in. That includes both the Bloomfield Health Department and the county health officer, director of health, that combined service for us. And with that, I'll lead to the manager's report.
Mr. Sullivan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll try to work through my report quickly as best as I can. The pool utility, there's two updates. The draft version of the pool rate study has been forwarded to the Recreation Advisory Subcommittee. They are meeting this week. We are following up with them directly and scheduling a meeting with NewGen and the Recreation Subcommittee, so we can then bring a final version of the recommendations to the Mayor and Council. The Recreation Committee meets again December 10th, so we'll come back to the Mayor and Council sometime shortly after that meeting. We also have our pool bids, which we discussed at the last meeting. We do have a supplemental bond ordinance scheduled for introduction this evening. That additional supplemental bond ordinance is included within that rate study, and it is part of the rate considerations for 2025 and beyond. With wastewater, we are continuing to work with Boswell on final summaries and priorities for our smoke testing results. There will be a handful of projects that we'll need to roll out in a phased approach in the coming years. And we have our primary clarifier pump station project out to bid. We'll be receiving bids next Friday. That is the first of a few capital improvements to the wastewater treatment facility. The next two are currently under design. That's the upgrades to the UV disinfection system and the microscreen project. We also televised the collection system trunk line behind Derwent Avenue. There were a few items that were identified that will need correction. There was one specific location that Boswell has identified in need of emergency repair. We are currently getting prices for that work. It's a 30-foot section of that 20-inch sewer line that needs to be replaced. We anticipate having an emergency resolution and an award of contract one of the upcoming December meetings. With the drinking water well projects, Lynn Drive continues under construction. A number of the settling and treatment tanks will be delivered tomorrow, so we'll start seeing accelerated activity at Lynn Drive Well starting tomorrow through the completion of the project. Contractor is still planning on putting the well back into service in December as required by their contract. We also have the Fairview Avenue well project. That is still pending the final Green Acres approval. We hope to have that project out to bid in the next several weeks. Similarly, the Claridge Drive pump station project, we have final plans, construction management contract, final specifications down in the I-Bank. We're just waiting for a final authorization to advertise that project as well. Again, we're hoping within the next few weeks we'll have both Fairview Avenue well and the Claridge Drive project out to bid. Just a quick update on stormwater. We have updated our pollution prevention plan as required within the MS4 permit. It's updated on the website, and we are currently going through an update on the stormwater mapping, also required as part of the MS4 permit we hold. Linden Avenue, we have a few road projects to update. Linden Avenue is the first one. It's still in the early planning stages, but the temporary demonstrations that were installed, they captured a great deal of feedback from the community. There were nearly 700 participants who submitted surveys to the NJTPA. We collected speed data. We've received direct input from a number of residents. We're now consolidating all of those recommendations and all of that data, and NJTPA will come up with a final recommendation to the Neighborhood Traffic and Safety Committee. Those final recommendations will be rolled into design and ultimate construction in 2025. Douglas Place and Boston Whitney Windermere projects are both complete with final closeout resolutions on the agenda this evening. Regarding Everett Field, we did have a meeting with both VBSL and Neglia earlier today. The 70% design drawings are expected at some point in December. They are being modified currently to reflect a lot of the recent comments that came in the last round of discussions. At that 70% design phase, we will come back to the council for one final presentation, and that will be rolled into 2025 capital planning as well. The pickleball and tennis courts project, we discussed those bids last week at the last meeting as well. There is a supplemental bond ordinance which is prepared and on the agenda this evening for introduction. Full sustainable initiatives. We are expecting the final energy audit from our energy audit team from the state. They've completed the reports for all the facilities. They're in draft form. We expect the final one for the wastewater plant later this week, and we are hoping to schedule them for presentation either in December if the schedule fits, or in early January. We are also continuing discussions with the solar consultant. We expect them to be presenting to the council at the December 16th meeting. We also received, we had bids which were scheduled to be received for energy assessment services for residential properties. They were due November 8th. There were no bids, so we're coordinating with Sustainable Verona at this point as to whether or not there should be a rebid of that service. And then also our community energy plan is currently underway. We've also met with affordable housing consultants, our township planner, affordable housing planner, and special counsel on affordable housing. There will be a discussion in executive session at the December 2nd meeting. We've also been discussing the Bloomfield Avenue streetscape. There were a number of design RFPs which were circulated. There is a summary of what the general cost breakdown is for those design services. If the council has any thoughts or comments on those, we are awaiting those comments. Otherwise, we'll look to schedule some presentations from the lower price half of those consultants. Winding down my report, our emergency repairs to the communications tower building are complete. There's just some building envelope repairs that need to be scheduled at this point. And the last item on my report is the town hall windows and repointing. We discussed the bids at the last meeting. They're was a number of alternate bids included in our base bid, which rolled in our second phase of the town hall repointing projects, which were originally scheduled for next year. The prices came in very competitively, and they were below the total estimate. But again, this was some capital that was assumed to be scheduled for next year. Our CFO was able to reappropriate some unused funds from recently completed road paving projects. So there is the accommodating ordinance for the reappropriation of those funds on the agenda for introduction tonight. And then the last item on my report, which is not on my report, but should be discussed tonight, is the best practices inventory, which has been previously circulated to the council. There were a number of questions and answers. I think that the general long and short of it is that the town did very well. We scored the points that we need, so there is no penalty on the state funding as a result of our best practices.
Are there any questions from Mr. O'Sullivan? Councilmember Brett?
Thank you. So on the best practices survey, normally it's kind of forward pointing on what the state, like what's on their mind on making sure that we're in compliance. Was there anything that we didn't score well on that is going to be something that the township's going to work on over the course of the next year?
There were a few items that, yeah.
There were 6 altogether.
Sick.
3 of them were not significant and 3 will be working on.
Okay. And they were in the 3 we're working on it were in the general area of like the lead. I know they had a lot of questions on the lead.
Right, we've been working diligently with our licensed operator on the lead services. So we're in good shape with lead services. There were some questions about certain documents which need to be submitted down to the state, certain filing requirements, but it's items that are easily corrected and cured.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Councilman Hall?
Thank you. I guess I'll start backwards. Regarding item 11 on your report, we received, so I believe we had applied for the strategic public use. Did that include the transit component or not?
So
Do we recall?
when we submitted our grant application, we highlighted that we were able to hit a couple of the criteria for that grant application. The state has reviewed all the applications. I understand that they have recently completed their competitive scoring process. They're scheduled to take formal action at their monthly meeting. I believe it's scheduled for Monday of next week. I believe the township is positioned favorably, but prior to them making any formal decision and formal action, we would wait for that meeting to take place.
I only ask because if there is a favorable outcome to that, I do know that there have been Girl Scouts advocating for increased use of public transportation, and Lakeside Avenue bus stops are not marked currently. I believe it was indicated by New Jersey Transit that they aren't marked because there's inadequate parking available for the Lakeside bus stops. So if this is approved and we are going to move forward with municipal parking, it might be, and I believe it is the municipality's prerogative to identify the bus stops, and then New Jersey Transit will mark them. If we could mark those stops, that would be great, because I have known residents to have the bus fly by or the bus doesn't stop at those locations because the signs aren't posted, even though they are kind of informal. So that's the only reason why I was asking with regard to the bus stop marking. Regarding point 2 on your agenda, specifically item F that you mentioned earlier in your report, so 2F, like where exactly are we thinking, where exactly is the location for the emergency repair?
The emergency repair is generally located in the first block between Bloomfield Avenue and Linden. It is
Okay, that's very helpful to understand that. So thank you for that. That's so hopefully there's an opportunity that we can move forward at that. Is the funding for that anticipated? I know that, you know, we did our rate study and we did increase rates, recognizing that there would be substantial capital improvements. Is this anticipated in the rates that are currently affected?
It can be absorbed whether either through capital or there may be operating budget available. There's some transfers occurring tonight, but within the next few weeks, we'll know if
We'll know
we're
further.
pulling it either directly from operating or in capital. But in either instance, it is covered with the rate structure that was
Okay.
recently adopted.
Well, that's very helpful to know. I mean, certainly, I think this is a necessary analysis that was done. We've had, concerns expressed throughout the municipality about our infrastructure, and this is something that I've had a lot of interest in my time on the council. So I do appreciate the administration taking this seriously, doing these studies, and making these necessary repairs. So thank you.
Any questions?
Just to follow up on that, this section that we're planning on repairing, is that going to solve our problem that we've had with the residents in their backyards?
It will solve one of our problems. There are other issues and deficiencies in the pipe that still need to be addressed, which you'll see in the 2025 capital planning. But it will address the most direct need at this time.
Okay. And then something that wasn't on here, just to follow up, where do we stand with our council chambers audio video upgrades?
Well, there is, again, that is another 2025 capital planning item. There's potential for some offset. That's actually one of the items that we'll need to discuss in executive for potential offsetting funds.
Thanks. Councilman Roman, any questions?
No questions, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Who has no questions? All right. Thank you. At this time, we'll move on to councilmember reports. Mayor McAvoy, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I want to, obviously, we know last week we had daylight savings last Sunday. I want to remind everybody to change the batteries in their smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. It's always a good time to do it twice a year. They usually say daylight savings, just to be cautious. The Diwali celebration, I apologize for not making it there. It came up on my calendar as the 31st because that's the day, and I had scheduled, I wanted to attend the West Orange Planning Board meeting on the 30th, so I couldn't make it. Unfortunately, that's an event I always enjoy attending, so thanks to the group that got that going, and especially Toral for keeping that going. A smooth election day. I did like to thank the clerk for all of our hard work on that, and all the workers that put time into that. And we have last November 6th, a sustainable Verona meeting. The deputy manager went over pretty much everything we talked about, including the energy audits and the community energy plan. They're coming off a very busy year, and they're regrouping and getting ready for next year, and they have a lot of other good plans in mind. And then lastly, I'd like to thank all of our veterans that did attend yesterday. Thank them for their service. Thank them for coming out yesterday. Mr. Mayor, wonderful job with the ceremony yesterday. And I'd like to thank Chris Gould and the rest of our staff for what they did getting this going. And I too have gotten a lot of compliments from people on the banners that they did on the avenue. So thank the Township administration for getting that going, completing that. And that is all I have for this evening.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councilman Roman.
I'll yield my time this evening. Apologies for not being there in person with all of you this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Roman. I appreciate you being on remotely. Councilman McGrath.
Thank you, Mayor, and I apologize, I was a little delayed this evening. I have a couple of things to report. I want to echo previous comments, thanking our municipal clerk and all of the poll workers and the county staff for a very successful election day, which is not just one day, turned out to be stretched over 8 full days of early voting. And early voting really took off this year with the Verona Community Center being featured even statewide in its turnout numbers, which was very exciting. I want to thank all of the residents who voted. We had some of the best turnout in the country. I'm sorry, not country, county. And the votes are still being counted, but I want to send my appreciation to all the residents who voted. I do want to congratulate Congresswoman LaMonica McIver for winning her first full term in Congress. Very excited to partner with her over the next few years and to see how we can advance Verona's interests. I was able to attend the Diwali celebration. I want to thank the Multicultural Inclusion and Accessibility Advisory Committee and Verona resident Toral Patel for planning it. This is really a special event where so many members of the community have come out repeatedly, because now this was our, I believe, 3rd or 4th year doing it. And it's really wonderful to get to know that community and to celebrate. And we were treated to some beautiful music this year. Speaking of music, I want to thank everyone for planning the Veterans Day, and in particular, thanking the high school choir that came out to sing, and all of the veterans who I got a chance to speak to. They were really wonderful. I wanted to mention I'm very excited for the upcoming Library Foundation Gala, which is actually on Thursday night at 6 o'clock. To celebrate and raise money for our library. And then finally, it was a very busy month for the Neighborhood Traffic and Safety Advisory Committee. I was able to attend the walkable workshop, which I believe was mentioned in the Deputy Manager's report on the Linden Avenue demonstration, and to really kind of observe the public's feedback on that. And we actually walked Linden Avenue and then saw the demonstration firsthand. This survey was a huge success. Over 400 people took it, which is amazing. And then some residents, I think, did their own survey, which is even more amazing feedback. And at our meeting of the Neighborhood Traffic and Safety Committee meeting, we had a robust discussion on that demonstration. They are also still working on the Complete Streets policy with the administration. And finally, we actually had robust public comment there, which is great. I think residents should feel free to use that committee to discuss safety issues. And I thank the chief of police in particular for his service on that committee. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hall.
Thank you. I won't repeat what others have said before me, but I do want to take a moment to acknowledge the recent election. Our municipal clerk has done a tremendous job in running our elections and advocating for Verona to be an early voting location. The turnout was impressive. The lines for early voting at the Verona Community Center were very real. And from those lines, I heard more than one voter speaking about the beauty of our facilities and the convenience of the early voting location. Our fields, our playground, our new playground, and our beautiful Verona Community Center facilities are really some of the best advertising for our community. And it really shows that Verona is a gem here in Essex County. So I want to thank you, Ms. Kiernan, for your leadership in advocating that Verona host early voting. I voted actually on the morning of election day, partially because those lines were really long and I actually wanted to watch my kids' sports games. So I thought I'd be able to pop in. That was not going to happen. So I voted at about 6:15 a.m. on the Tuesday morning. And as I told Ms. Kiernan at the time, I was so impressed with the poll workers. It was quite possibly my best experience voting at District 8 at Brookdale. And this is really another reflection of your dedication and experience and the value that you offer our residents and this community and really all of Essex County, because they got to enjoy the early voting. So I want to thank you so much, Ms. Kiernan, for what you do for our community. It's very, truly impressive. So thank you.
Thank you.
I also want to congratulate our new Senator, Andy Kim, and our Congresswoman, LaMonica McIver. Ms. McIver has already shown an interest in our community, attending several events as a candidate and in her role as Congresswoman, and she did have representation at our Veterans Day ceremony. And Ms. McIver and I share a similar interest in infrastructure, having seen the devastating effects of climate change. So I'm confident that she will be a fierce advocate for our community, and I'm very excited for her new term. With regard to climate change, echoing some of the comments earlier, but not saying necessarily the same things. I think it's really important for us to recognize that climate change is real. So what we've seen in the last 12 months is terrible flooding in the state of New Jersey that both impacted residents here in Verona as well as across the state. If you remember, like throughout December and January, we were seeing like road closures and massive flooding. And then here we are within 12 months, so less than a year, we now are in a significant and devastating drought where we are seeing these stunning wildfires wreaking havoc across our fair state. So I think it's really important to understand that climate change is about extremes. It's not about global warming. It's not a political issue. It is a reality that is affecting all of our lives. And it is something that we have to address here at the local level and at really all levels of government. So I'm committed to doing that. That is something that I am very passionate about. I think it's important for us to have the infrastructure improvements to address these serious experiences and for our residents to be prepared. So I really just want to stress how just watching these events and really trying to comprehend how we had those devastating floods less than a year ago. And now here we are in a situation with a drought and wildfires. It is stunning to me. And I just want the community to know that this is something that I take very seriously. So thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. At this time, I'll open for comment on any item through the public participation statement.
Anyone from the public wishing to speak on any matter, if you're visiting by Zoom, please raise your hand by pressing the raise hand button on your monitor. If you're dialing in by phone, press *9. If you're attending in person, please raise your hand, then approach the lectern. Once recognized, clearly state only your name and township of residence for the record. You are not required to provide your street address. However, if you do, please note that these meetings will be posted on the township's YouTube channel, and addresses will not be redacted for any purpose. You'll have 4 minutes to address the council. There can be no cross dialogue during this public portion, and after everyone wishing to speak has been heard, the council may address your comments and/or questions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there anybody in the audience who can come on up
Oh, thank
to
you.
that lectern right over there?
Excuse me.
State your name for the record, please, before you begin. Do not give us your address, just give us your comment.
Hi, my name is Roseanne Penna. I'm at the Verona Senior Housing. And for 2 years, we've had an ongoing situation with the management there. And I'm hoping that the council can help us or direct us with these problems. The first thing is we can no longer control the heat in the building. And 68 degrees is way too cold for most residents between the ages of 65 and 85. It's not consistent throughout the building. We no longer have an intercom system so that if there's any emergencies, other than running around pounding on everyone's door, do we know what's going on? And this week there was an odor leak, which they thought was gas, and that's what happened. The police department had to come and knock on everyone's door to let us know. We've been having a big theft and car vandalism issue, but because it's private property, we're told that there's not much that can be done. The parking is very limited. I don't know how we can help us with that. And our windows don't open and close properly. They don't, the draft that's coming off and the no heat, we're freezing. And if there's an emergency where we have to get out of the window, I don't think we'll be able to open them. And they've been promising us for 2 years that this is on their agenda of repairs. Is there something that the council can do to help the management? And the owner of the building has not responded to any of our requests, which are in writing.
We don't respond right away. We wait till everybody's done with
Okay.
all comments on all issues, and then.
Okay, and I just have one more question. I don't know if it's right. Is there a number to call if the heat is giving us a problem, like a hotline? Does our town have that?
Once again, we can't have cross dialogues. So
Okay.
answer.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the gallery wish to make comments? Whatever you want.
I'm from Hillwood too. Some of the problems that Roseanne was speaking about are quite urgent. I have a window in my bedroom, which is silly to get into a situation. 2 years, I cannot open that window. Because when you open it, it falls, top comes down, you can't close it. Then I had wasps coming in, so they told me not to open the window. They have people coming. Granted, they do call people in to look at this stuff. People look at it, they leave. 2 months later, you get somebody else to come in. They keep sending people to look. Nothing's being done. We need something to be done, not just pat us on the back and say, well, we're seniors. We're tired of that. We have rights too. And this is getting to be a little ridiculous with some of the stuff. Heat, yes, we do need extra heating. First off, they do put a heating monitor or whatever you call it in our apartments. It's it tells you what your apartment's supposed to be, but it's always at 74. It'll go down 72, 73, but it never goes up. Hardly ever goes up past 74. You could come into my house at 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon. You could put your hand through my radiator to feel it. It's ice cold. Come at 11 o'clock, it's ice cold. In the morning, we get some heat. It's got to be regulated. Some people in the building, their apartments are steaming. They can't even breathe, it's so hot. And yet you get other people like myself who is very cold. And now in our lease, we are told we are not supposed to have heaters. Well, I'll be damned. I went out and bought a heater. I don't care. I'm not going to freeze. Something has to be done through the landlord to help us regulate the heat. They send people in. It's not being fixed. I don't know what to tell them, but we thought maybe the council could give us a hand, maybe even make a phone call to the landlord or just see what's going on. So you got all residents in Verona starting to complain. And like I said, this is things we would like the council maybe to look into for us. When it comes voting time, we all vote for you people. So there's no problem. So we'd appreciate it for you to take a look at everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the gallery? We're to go to the folks on Zoom. Mr. Mahmood, Jamal, you're up.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Can you all hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Very good. Jamal Mahmood from the landing section in Verona. I just wanted to speak briefly on behalf of the Verona pickleball community and thank the council for continuing to consider the project. And just say there's a lot of excitement about the pending development of the pool courts. We appreciate any updates that you have in terms of how it's going. I know that there was, I guess, the talk of this additional bond ordinance. So I just wanted to, any comments that you guys have on what that means for the future of the development would be appreciated. But basically, thanks for continuing to take up the issue.
Thank you, Jamal. Any other public comments?
Hello, my name is Elena Thomas. I'm a housing justice attorney from Rutgers Housing Justice and Tenant Solidarity Clinic, who's been working with the residents of the Verona Senior Housing Building that you've just heard from. I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know that they have outsiders working to help assist, and we would really like some support in actually reaching out. We've already reached out to the owners and property managers of the building and would like some assistance. So if anybody can exchange information so that we can follow up, we'd greatly appreciate that.
Any other comments? This time I'll close public comment. There will be another opportunity at the end of the meeting. I will start out by responding. I've met many of you before as a rescue squad member, unfortunately, for some of you. And I'm in Hillwood Terrace a lot. And I do understand your concerns because I had some from kids just randomly entering apartments as well. And so I not only sympathize, but also empathize with you as somebody who rented for many years as well. Having that interaction is important. I'm glad to see that you have representation as well in this way. So the Township Council is not a law enforcement body in this way. We do, however, have municipal codes and state laws that need to be followed. So Mr. DiArco, as our township manager, can ask, and we can't order him to do this, but I'm just giving you the overview of what can happen at this point. Mr. DiArco can ask our code enforcement officials to go over to Hillwood, whether it's our construction, zoning, and fire code enforcement officials, health departments, to go over and go to the building. They will need specific documented complaints. Ms. Thomas, if you can share those with Mr. DiArco, it's just JDARCO@veronanj.org, or you can exchange information with Mr. O'Sullivan on your way out. Mr. O'Sullivan's our deputy manager. And that would be the place to start to make sure that the laws are being enforced, because there are specific regulations. I'm not a legal expert, so I'm not going to opine on that. But there are regulations related to what temperature things must be at certain times, as you well know, Ms. Thomas, in that way. But we do have multiple enforcement opportunities in that way to make sure that's done. Since the facility is no longer a HUD building, there's no board there, right? There's not. So I think that is one of the issues that, unfortunately, that's normally where we would have gone. The deputy mayor actually sat on the board for many years, right? And but once that wasn't a HUD building anymore, there was no, and went into private ownership, there was no requirement to have that board of trustees in that position anymore. But we appreciate, we don't have any, as the council, direct authority over your landlord. But if Mr. DiArco sets up a meeting, I'm more than happy to attend. Not all of us can go because only 2 of us are allowed to be in a place at a time, but I'm happy to go. I work across the street from there, and I'm happy to stop by anytime to have that meeting if my assistance can be required, Mr. DiArco, on that. But unless our town attorney and our manager offer a different perspective, I would say that we probably start with code enforcement and then work from there. And then if something isn't actionable on the code enforcement mechanism, that's when we start to use our government roles to see if we can help resolve some of this conflict on an informal basis before you end up in landlord tenant court, all of those things. And that is something that we can do. Just note that we don't have any, beyond the code enforcement, we don't have any recourse officially beyond that piece. However, if township manager and the mayor and another council member show up, that can make a statement to the owners of the building. And as somebody who's been there multiple times, I can share my perspective on many things. They know me. They don't particularly like me there, but I'm sure so. Because of some things that have happened that I've had to get involved with, emergency management, things like that. But just know that I'm happy to advocate for that, knowing what you're doing. Other comments from council?
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes, I feel for all of you. I do have a knowledge of the building, as the mayor said, a prior board experience up there. Unfortunately, in the original bylaws of the building, there was the board had control for 30 years. So that went away and it went directly to the owner. So now the owner hires the management company, so they have full control of what goes on up there. But I know as far as the state goes, there's rules and regulations as to heat, and it has to be equally distributed throughout the building. So if one room is cold and one room's hot, it's their job to fix it. So hopefully, the management here can talk to the management there and work it out. I will also, since I have a knowledge of the building, if you need another council person to attend, I would be more than happy to attend and go through the building. But we will work on it for you.
Councilwoman McGrath? Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I just want to say I know many of you, and this just really distresses me. So it's wonderful that you're all here. Let's keep the lines of communication open. And I also wonder if there's opportunities with Essex County to also, if there's ways of their assistance, because I know Essex County has come in and done food distributions. That's where I've seen many of you and was so present during the pandemic. And I don't know if they have any resources that could help mediate this and intervene. Obviously, we already discussed, we can only have 2 council members, but I am more than willing to jump into any meeting as well. But let's keep that communication both formally here, but also informally as we know each other. And I do hope this gets resolved quickly. This really does distress me so to hear how frustrated and upset you all are. So I'm hopeful we can resolve this.
Councilman Hall.
Thank you. As you already have 3 council members offering to come to your building, I won't create greater competition there. But I do want to thank you for your advocacy. I think it's so important. I was not aware of some of these challenges until you came forward this evening. I think it's wonderful, and I'm confident that our administration is going to be responsive to your concerns. So I just really want to thank you again for your advocacy. It is precisely the type of thing that you should bring to this governing body, because if you hadn't come forward, I would not have otherwise known about it. So thank you for doing so. I also want to, compliment you for reaching out and working with the Rutgers Housing Advocacy Clinic, because I do think it's really important that we have these clinics available to, seniors, because you absolutely do matter. And I think it's really important that your needs are represented. So I hope that you do reach out and speak to our township administration, and that we can help you to get some of this addressed. And if not, I would expect that we are getting update to council on this experience. So thank you again for coming forward this evening. I know it's not terribly convenient, and it is a thing tonight as well. So again, thank you so much for your advocacy.
Councilman Roman, anything?
I'll just echo my thank you to the residents for making us aware of this issue, regardless of what body has which regulatory enforcement power. It's valuable for us to know the state of housing issues within our community, and I am confident the township administration will review their options for what sort of enforcement mechanisms we have, and assist the residents as best as possible. And would also just like to acknowledge Mr. Mahmood's comment as well. Thank you for your continuing advocacy regarding the pickleball courts, and there will be further discussion on that this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Lloyd, did we miss anything?
No, I think you hit our options well.
All right. So thank you all very much, and please communicate. All of our email addresses are on the website, Ms. Thomas. So if you have a document that you can send to us so that we're all prepared, that certainly helps. If you have specific lists of these items and apartment numbers and things like that, Mr. Diarco's things there, the more data that you can provide, the easier it is to start engaging in some talks and enforcement on that side. And if you can keep us in the loop as you follow with any other enforcement mechanisms.
Mayor, if I may.
Please.
Somebody, Clark has my card. My email address is on there. You can send me the material that the mayor is referencing that you discussed tonight, a list of apartments. I'll be assembling the enforcement staffs tomorrow, which will be, they'll get a directive to go to the building, which will be it'll be fire, construction, health, and if necessary, once we get the preliminary assessment in, the State Department of multiple dwelling inspections, et cetera. I'm sure it's under their umbrella also. So if you can give me all the information first, then I'll send, the teams will be notified tomorrow, and then they'll get to your building.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Real quick, I just want to say to your residents, if you, someone spoke about their thermostat, if you see a temperature on your thermostat, and I would say below 62, definitely if you can, take a picture of it, because now you're documenting that you're having a problem with your heat, and it would help your case a little better. So definitely, help yourself by doing that also.
So, great. Thank you. We're moving on to hearing adoption of ordinances. Madam Clerk, the next item on the agenda is ordinance number 2024-35 on second reading. Please read the title of this ordinance into the record.
Chapter 150 zoning, Article 25, stormwater management controls and requirements of township code.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would somebody move the ordinance, please?
So moved.
Motion's made by the deputy mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilwoman Holland. This time I'll open for public comment on ordinance number 2024-35 only. Same public comment statement applies. Doesn't quickly have anybody on here. Any comments on this ordinance only? Very not. I close public comments. Any council discussion? I will just note that the planning board reviewed this for consistency and found it, we don't find it consistent, we find it not inconsistent. As our planning board members know and just as, but they did review it, and I thank our staff and Ms. Pearson for their help in those. And clerk, would you call the roll?
Councilwoman Holland,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGrath,
Yes.
Councilman Roman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy,
Yes.
Mayor Tamboro.
Yes.
Mayor, ordinance 24-35 passes 5-0, and it will be published according to law.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next up on the agenda is ordinance number 2024-36 on first reading, second reading. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title of this ordinance into the record?
Amending Chapter A 565-1, Schedule of Fees, specifically stormwater fees of the Township Code.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would somebody move the ordinance?
So moved.
Motion's made by Councilwoman McGrath. Is there a second?
Second.
The second is made by Councilwoman Holland. At this time, I'll open for public comment, public hearing on this ordinance only. Same public comment statement applied. Hearing none, I hereby close public comment. Any council discussion?
Yes.
There's no for the public that it's just being moved in the chapters. It's not any substantive change. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Councilwoman Holland,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGrath,
Yes.
Councilman Roman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy,
Yes.
Mayor Tamboro.
Yes.
Mayor, ordinance 2024-36 passes 5-0 and will be published according to law.
Thanks, Madam Clerk. The next item on the agenda is an ordinance on first reading labeled H1. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title of this ordinance?
Bond ordinance providing a supplemental appropriation of $195,000 for the improvement of pickleball tennis courts, including equipment in and by the Township of Verona and the County of Essex, New Jersey, and authorizing the issuance of $195,000 bond or notes of the township to finance the cost thereof.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would somebody move the ordinance? You know what? I'm going to move this one.
I'll second it.
Thank you. McGrath. I don't get to move a lot of things, and it's true. I'm very taken by pickleball. So, Mr. Mahmood just has to promise to teach me, which is going to take a lot of patience. So, any council discussion on this item? Just will note for the public that this is a supplemental appropriation, so this is beyond the original price. Mr. O'Sullivan, Mr. Fiorco, could you provide just a little insight as to how we got there? We're not gonna be able to hear you, so what else here?
The low bid for the project was $440,000. There were additional soft costs for design, construction management services, and a 10% construction contingency. The total project cost is $569,000. And the original bond ordinance was approved for $375,000, which also included a $75,000 grant. The shortage is the $195,000 supplemental ordinance that is on the agenda for this evening.
The difference is we had an engineering estimate and then we got the actual bids in.
Correct. The work, the scope of the project expanded slightly, and the final construction bids were slightly higher than the original estimate.
Which is going to happen because everything's getting more expensive.
Yes.
So as far as I'm concerned, now is a better time than ever just to get this project moving. We have these. Any other council discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Councilwoman Holland,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGrath,
Yes.
Councilman Roman,
Yes.
Yeah, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah.
I can read his lips.
Yes.
Or type in the chat.
I got a yes on that one. All right.
Thumbs up.
Yes, Council Roman has signified his thumbs up.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy,
Yes.
Mayor Tamboro.
Yes.
Mayor, H1 will be numbered 24-37. It will be published according to law and a public hearing will be held on December 2nd.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The next item on the agenda is ordinance. First, it is H2. Would you please read the title of this ordinance into the record?
A bond ordinance providing a supplemental appropriation of $225,000 for the improvement of the big pool for the pool utility in and by the Township of Verona in the County of Essex, New Jersey, and authorizing the issuance of $225,000 bonds or notes of the township to finance the cost thereof.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would somebody please move this ordinance?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilwoman McGrath. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconds by Councilwoman Holland. Is there any council discussion on this supplemental appropriation? I just have one question. Is this going to affect the new gen report?
The new gen report assumed this actual construction cost. So it will not affect the report.
So I call for presentation, just making sure.
Yes.
It makes everything just that much more complicated. Any other council discussion? I do want to note that I enjoy so much that we have in legalese the term big pool. Amidst all of that. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Holland,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGrath,
Yes.
Councilman Roman.
Yes.
Why isn't that?
Thumbs up.
You gotta turn the volume up a little
It's
bit.
up.
Is it up?
Yes.
Mayor McAvoy,
Okay, we got it.
Okay, that's on.
Yes.
Mayor Tamboro.
Yes.
Mayor, H2 will be numbered 2024-38. It will be published according to law and a public hearing will be held on December 2nd.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The next ordinance up for introduction is currently labeled H3. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title of this ordinance into the record?
Reappropriating $340,000 proceeds of obligations not needed for their original purpose in order to provide for the repointing of the Township Hall in and by the Township of Verona in the County of Essex, New Jersey.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would somebody move the ordinance, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
By Councilman Roman, there he is. Okay, the motion was made by the deputy mayor, seconded by thumbs up Roman. Is there any council discussion on this item?
Is this the total amount to repoint? 340 is
Full including phase one.
Next year. Okay.
Some last project.
until we get an estimate.
Okay, thanks. Okay. All right, Madam Clerk, to call the roll, please.
Councilwoman Holland,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGrath,
Yes.
Councilman Roman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy,
Yes.
Mayor Tamboro.
Yes.
Mayor, H3 will be numbered 2024-39. It will be published according to law. A public hearing will be held on December 2nd.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, next up is our consent agenda. We have including J1, which is a set of minutes, K1 through 13, which is several resolutions, including budget transfers, various purchases and contracts, change orders and closeouts for construction, professional services contracts, our contract for the fireworks, the previously tabled contract related to the Department of Works Mason dump trucks, and applications for participation in the PSE&G Energy Efficient Partnership Program. And we're also getting rid of some obsolete equipment, which is always my favorite time in government. So somebody please move the consent agenda. First, does anybody need anything pulled from the consent agenda?
If I may.
Yes.
Can we pull item K3
Yep,
from the consent agenda, please? Thank you.
you got it. Anybody else? I would like to pull K7, I think that's just worth a separate conversation. All right. Will somebody move K 1 and 2, 4 through 6, and 8 through 13? So
Second.
made by the deputy mayor, seconded by the councilwoman. At this time, I'll call for public comments on any of. We're going to have public comment now on all consent agenda items, regardless of whether they are the ones we just pulled or not. So we only have that one session. It's all the same deal. So we're going to have public comment on this. I will now open that. The same public comment statement applies. Hearing none, any council discussion on the moved items? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Holland,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGrath,
Yes.
Councilman Roman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy,
Yes.
Mayor Tamburo.
Yes.
All right. K1 and 2, 4 to 6, and 8 through 13 will be numbered 210 through and including 220.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So somebody please move resolution K3.
So moved.
Motion is made by Councilman McGrath. Is there a second? Thank you.
I would like to recuse myself from this matter. I just want to state for the record.
Noted. Thank you. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman McGrath,
Yes.
Councilman Roman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy,
Yes.
Mayor Tamburo.
Yes.
Mayor, K3 will be numbered 221, and it passes 4-0, one recusal.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Will somebody please move resolution K7?
So moved.
Motion is made by the deputy mayor. I will second this motion. At this point, I would like to open for discussion. I know we had originally tabled this from the last meeting because there were several questions on it. Mr. O'Sullivan provided us a detailed report. I'd like to invite our DPW superintendent up as well to offer any comments. Chuck, these are your dump trucks.
Yes.
Anything you'd like to add or say while you're here?
I think Deputy Manager has covered everything we talked about, and I think he showed a clear reason why I need new equipment.
Are there any questions for either our township manager or our DPW superintendent on this item? I suppose that's the one question that I brought up the last time that I just need to get some clarification on. Right now, this resolution is only approving for until the end of 2024, right? But we're entering into a contract, presuming we pass this, that lasts several years. So we're going to need to do another resolution in January.
That's correct. In January, my understanding is in January, you'll do this via a bond, which will cover the rest of the contract. And from a legal perspective, one of the reasons why I think that's acceptable is because it will be the same council next year. We don't have a case where it is a different council. If there was an election in the future, if that's the way our government worked, where January, yeah. So the same body is going to approve that bond, presumably on January, whatever, 6th, 8th, 10th, whatever the first meeting is. And then my understanding also is that our CFO has contacted the auditors, and they were also all right with the switch from the operating to the capital.
Okay. Thank you. Just one request to make of the administration. So I know we had worked very hard to streamline the budget process last year, and it was very successful, especially with capital, putting things into one bond. And I know this did come up as, in discussion then. So just as a goal moving forward, to really try to identify the needs and the wants, just to highlight them just a little differently in the budget process. And as Councilman McGrath and I brought up the last meeting, having preceding these items with a memorandum that explains them would be certainly a good procedure that way. Any other discussion, Deputy Mayor?
I would just like to thank the deputy manager for your very detailed explanation of all this. I know this is a department that I don't think anybody in town ever complains about, especially for snow removal. So I certainly, hopefully we won't need them, but I certainly don't during the winter months when we have snow, want to see any trucks down.
Oh, yeah.
I did stop.
Did I not say that climate change was real?
Oh, this will put out the fires. And that's, and I do want to note that I am impressed by how long you have kept those other dump trucks going. And one of the first things I did, even before I was on the council, but after being elected, was tour all the facilities in town. And touring the maintenance departments at the Public Works was one of the more interesting experiences as far as that. And there's still several pretty old good vehicles there that we're going to need to plan ahead. I would think that would be wise just to have, like we do with all of our other infrastructure. These are not permanent infrastructure, but have a replacement plan put in place. We kind of do the fire trucks and ambulances, and it would be helpful to have this looking for many years ahead, at least on some kind of estimate purpose, so we can get all that going. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Holland,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGrath,
Yes.
Councilman Roman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy.
Yes.
Mayor Tamboro,
Yes.
Mayor K7 will be number 222.
Okay, you got your document, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to, we have no licensing permits. We're going to move on to our addendum. There are two items on the addendum. The first is an ordinance on first reading to amend the parking rules. So we can't bundle these. So, Madam Clerk, the item on the agenda, ordinance on first reading, is labeled M1. Would you please read the title of this ordinance into the record?
Amending chapters 140-36, no parking certain hours, 140-38, time limit parking, and 140-68, parking meter permit parking zones designated.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would somebody please move this ordinance?
So move.
Motion is made by the Deputy Mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second is made by Councilman McGrath. Is there any council discussion on this item? Deputy Mayor?
I did have some questions and I reached out to both the clerk and our chief and he answered my questions. So I am all good with this, the changes that are made.
Any other discussion, comments? Carried none, Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilwoman Holland,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGrath,
Yes.
Councilman Roman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy,
Yes.
Mayor Tamboro.
Yes.
Mayor, ordinance M1 will be number 2024-40. It will be published according to law and a public hearing will be held on December 2nd.
All right, the next item on the addendum is resolution M2. Would somebody please move resolution M2?
So moved.
The motion is made by Councilman McGrath. I will second the motion. This time I will call for a public comment on M2. The same public comment statement applies. Hearing none, I will close public comments. As a matter of discussion, Madam Clerk, I'm actually going to ask you to present this one.
Okay, well, this is asking the state legislature to permit online news platforms for legal newspapers. As of right now, we have the Star Ledger, but Star Ledger, Trenton Times, and a couple other Jersey Journal going out of print circulation after the first of the year. We won't be able to comply with the Open Public Meetings Act as is, as we won't have two papers paid for circulated within town. So this just urges our state legislature to to address that as soon as possible.
Okay. Thank you for including this, and should we pass this resolution, which is an immediate matter, and that's why it's on the addendum, we will send it to our legislative delegation. Councilman Holland?
I just want to say again, thank you for your leadership. I think this is incredibly important. I think the recent events are going to create legislative challenges, not only in the broad compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, but also in other public notice provisions sprinkled throughout the New Jersey statutes. And so I think various administrative agencies and really the Bar Association, as well as the League of Municipalities, are really going to have to kind of scrutinize those statutes and see if further amendments are necessary. So I really want to compliment you for being ahead of the curve, for recommending this resolution, and for, providing it to our legislative representation. I think it's very important for us to advocate in this way. Thank you.
Councilwoman McGrath?
Thank you. So I have a question and then I want to make a statement. So is this the League of Municipalities or the Municipal Clerks Association? Is this what they're advocating for versus like eliminating the 2-paper requirement and allowing us to post online only on our own website?
For right now, because this just came up, the focus is just to get something where we can all be in compliance without newspapers that are in publication. But while I have the opportunity, I just want to mention, since the public will be listening, is the public information officer and I have created a button on our main page of our website for legal public notices. So whenever I go to publish in a newspaper or whatever may be in the future after the new year, we're also going to post it on our website as well. It will be immediately posted there, whereas it would take a couple days to be posted in the newspaper. So even if the state does go that way, we'll already be in compliance.
Okay, great.
But
And I want to echo, thank you again for your leadership. You're really one of the best municipal clerks in the entire state, and we are really lucky to have you. I am really dismayed that the Star Ledger will no longer be in print. This is another degradation of local news, which is so important for a well-functioning democracy. I know the residents through my numerous conversations with them over the last 6 years really are missing qualified print newspapers that cover the council and the Board of Ed and other local happenings in our community. And it is really, I think this level of transparency that newspapers provide only makes governing stronger. Normally there would have been a newspaper reporter in the gallery listening to the residents' concerns, and that would have been a front page story, and really be able to kind of amplify, what they're experiencing, and, it may not get any news coverage. So, this certainly, and also another newspaper announced they're folding on the same day as the Star Ledger. So it was really a troubling day in New Jersey. I do hope the legislature acts quickly during lame duck. In particular, they seem to pass a lot of things at the end of December, so I think this is well timed. And I'm excited to support it. And I'm sure it will be a topic at the League of Municipalities. And I do hope the state legislature takes swift action. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilwoman Holland.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGrath.
Yes.
Councilman Roman.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy.
Yes.
Mayor Tamboro.
Yes.
Mayor M2 will be numbered 2024-223 and will be sent to our representatives in state legislature.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The next item on the agenda is our new unfinished business. The first item is discussion on proposed ordinance establishing new chapter 173 in the Township Code, federal business license and insurance required. Mr. Diarco, this has been something you've brought up several times. I'd like you to brief us and the public on this item.
There's two reasons servicing part of the requirements for the state. We required towns being required to pass business license ordinances And in our case, you will then govern all of these businesses that come into town. Landscapers, plumbers, whatever, they'll have to take a license out to do any work in our town. And if they violate our codes, if they're issued summonses for violating the plumbing codes, the building codes, whatever, you can revoke their license, which is a privilege to work in the town. And Brian may have a comment on the state pieces of this, which.
So one of these state mandates, they allow us to charge, so you'll see number 2 is also the amendment of 8565, which is the fees. I think the recommendation on it up, it's $25 if I recall
It
correctly.
was minor.
This also applies to all rentals, single family homes even, so all rentals will also require to have the insurance and show proof of the insurance, so it's going to be quite an administrative burden on the township trying to collect all the stuff on a yearly basis.
I just have a couple questions. The effective date says takes effect immediately, and we do have a lot of businesses operate in town that would need to be noticed of this. We also have a lot of rental units.
So I think the ordinance says effective immediately, but the ordinance, the resolution or the body of the ordinance is effective immediately, but I think we did January 1st. Yes, January 1st is actually effective. And the only reason we did that is because what we're hoping to do, and the way the ordinance is written is a prorated amount if you do it like if you show up in June. This way it's everybody's due at the same time, because if you don't have that, if you had a rolling with thousands of these things due, it would be next to impossible to try to calendar everybody. So this way everyone's due on the same January date.
So my only concern with this is because we have so many, and we would need to find a way to notice everybody in this, that we would push the effective date of this off until maybe mid-year, just to get it out. Mr. Garrick and I had a short conversation about this in the middle of the house fire, I would say, and that was, the fire investigation not been out yet. If there were some contractor negligence that would allow us to prevent that contractor from working in town again, right? So there's some advantages here. But at the same point, with all the rental units we have, with all the businesses, with all this stuff, I think we need to give people some grace in order to get it out there. We need to engage in a massive campaign, not only to businesses, but also to our residents, to notify them that they should be asking to see business licenses of anybody they use, right? And and obviously the fee isn't that much. I guess there is a concern with like a kid out, mowing lawns for people and stuff like that. And obviously I would hope that we're not going to be engaging in some kind of enforcement mechanism to stop a 16-year-old from, mowing his neighbor's lawns if they're agreeing to it.
No eliminate stances in there.
Yeah.
There'll be a public information effort to notify business communities and people vending in town. We can have a startup date of January, that's why we work, so that it's not rolling every month, and we'll drive the office. There will be effective every January. The fees will be prorated as
I would be more comfortable having it at July 1st start for the first time, charging everybody $25 for the first year, no matter when. So people can apply anytime between now and then, pay the $25, the license would go into effect on July 1st for everybody. And that gives everybody time to breathe, and we're not gonna be out of compliance or anything if we do that, Mr. Lawyer, right?
I'm actually looking at it. See, so while ours might be slightly juicier, if this is a state law, so we're actually required to pass this, and I believe, I'm trying to look it up right now online, I believe that it actually needs to be effective for next year. Jen, do you know the start date by any chance?
February 2023.
2023, so we're already late.
It's in the local finance.
Yeah, so the state approved it August 5th of 22.
What's another couple months? No. The thought being is we'll come into compliance here, but even when we wrote this, we did have conversations when we meet, every Wednesday. And one of the things we talked about was there is no plan right now or thought that the township of Verona is going to come down on everybody. There's going to be a huge educational thing, and this will more likely than not take at least a year before the wheels get greased and whatnot. So we hope that people would apply and would start registering next year once the ordinance becomes effective. But as the manager indicated, there's going to be a huge educational campaign, but as well as an internal, let's set this up. Let's try to figure out how we're going to do this, how we're going to notify every year, spreadsheets, Excel spreadsheets, cards that maybe go out every October or whatever. So there's a whole procedure. So this will really just get the procedure started. No one that I know of, they can correct me if I'm wrong because they're here, in the township believes that this is going to be something where we're going writing tickets and enforcing ordinances, in January.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's not, as long as we don't see enforcement right away.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you can, that's different. Now, would this apply in the way it's written to just, let's say somebody does not conduct business, but they own an LLC that is listed as the registered address in the township of Verona. Are they paying a registry certificate for that?
Well, it depends, it depends. So if we read the first thing, and this is right from there, that no person shall conduct, carry on, exhibit, promote, or engage in any business activity within the border of the township. That's a pretty broad definition. However, if you just have an LLC established, you're not conducting, you're not carrying on, you're not promoting, you're not engaging in any business activity. You have a silent, it's almost like having a pocket license for a liquor license. You're not engaging in, you just own something. So I would argue that more likely than not is not. It's one of those things that depends, because once someone starts to do anything, they could be engaging, even if they're promoting it from their house, but it's online, no one from Verona is using it. That's engaging in business in the township borders.
So, okay, so there are 3 council members, at least that I know of, that own LLCs in this municipality. So in that case, we would have to declare the doctrine of necessity to then pass this. We would need a resolution.
That part, first off, I have to look at that. So, I'm not going to give an ethics opinion sitting here. It would be a research thing. But then with regard to other council people, I only, like the local finance board, we only give opinions to people else from we can't ask others. And then this has the same effect as everybody. So there's a high likelihood that nobody would be conflicted at it. It wouldn't be the doctrine of necessity, just because this applies to everybody in the world who has a business. And no one is singling anybody out or whatever. It doesn't have an effect just on you. And in fact, again, this is a state requirement. It's not even our requirement.
That's in there.
So my one major question with this is, this applies to, say, an LLC of a property owner. And I obviously have that. So if your property has a retail business in it, then that means that the property owner has to pay a fee and register, and the business has to pay a fee and also register.
That's correct, but it's not just fee and register. You actually have to prove you have insurance. So it's
Okay, but as a property owner, you have to have insurance. Obviously, a bank is going to require you to have insurance anyway. So that's like checked in that.
Well, that's only assuming you have a mortgage, and this specifically applies. And again, it's the state law, not our law, because we're talking about the insurance requirement, to single family rentals as well. So it's not even like, single family homes that are rented are exempt. It's almost like using the analogy, our rent control ordinance, it applies to like 4 families and above. Or whatever. This doesn't. This is, arguably you're not, I'll call it in air quotes, a business when you own a single family home that you're renting, right? But they're looking at this as business, and for whatever reason, they want to make sure everybody has this certain amount of insurance. It's not less than $300,000, I guess, right? To give you a quick look.
So you touched on my next question. Single family, or as it said in here, 4 or fewer units has to pay that.
That's correct.
So why is it that the owner of a 4 or fewer building has to pay the fee, but someone who owns Hillwood Terrace, when you have that many units there, why are they exempt from paying this fee?
Oh, no, they're not exempt. They all pay it. The difference between A and B in insurance requirements is one has a $500,000 limit and the other one has a $300,000 limit. So 4 or fewer has a lesser requirement for the insurance for whatever reason. again, this is from the state law. This is when you talk about insurance requirements, it's something that we made up.
Anything else, Deputy Mayor?
Okay, for now, no.
Councilman McGrath?
Thank you. So I'm really trying to wrap my head around this. So if an attorney is working out of their home and they have a business, and again, their clients are all outside of Verona, they still have to pay this fee.
When you say working outside of their home,
Well, I'm sorry, let's say an attorney uses their home as their place of business in Verona.
yes, they would pay this fee and they would actually have to prove insurance as well.
Let's say someone has one of the new categories of business that the state finally licensed a year or two ago, a home baking business where they make cakes. Does that person need to get this license?
Yes.
Okay, we talked about, like, if someone has a formal babysitting business or dog walking business, they have to get this as well.
Yes. It's extremely broad, but it's the way the legislator wrote it. You know, I can even start doing research now as specific examples come up. There might be some case law on specific examples that you're using.
But anyone who has a consulting business, they're paying this fee out of their home.
It's a very broad definition. So, yes.
What about nonprofits?
What about nonprofits?
I don't believe that they're exempt.
It's under corporation.
Could we perhaps get a research memo about legislation in peri materia and how they define business activities? Because this just says an owner of a business or an owner of a rental unit as I read the legislation. I think it would be really helpful. And I think it would also be really instructive to our residents to have a definition in whatever proposed ordinance ultimately moves forward. Because if we are taking the position that it is that expansive, that it's going to include somebody's home baking and, home baking business, like a sole proprietorship, a single member LLC, nonprofit corporations, things of that nature. I think we want to make sure that we have a really sound legal basis on that. So I would really appreciate having some research into the legislative language around this, because the reference chapter law, and when I look at it, is very pithy. It has very little here, and so it is going to be part of a broader part of the code, and perhaps there is information that we can glean from other sections of the statutes as well as case law on what is intended by owner of a business and owner of a rental unit. And if we are perhaps behind some of the other municipalities in the state that have implemented ordinances for business licensing, I think it would be really instructive to see what they've done and how they've interpreted this. Because I mean, if we're going to be reaching for dog walking businesses and things of that nature, I mean, this is first of all, it's just not going to even be practical. We're just trying to boil the ocean at this point. So I really think we should make this practical, and statutes should really be read in such a way that they aren't just silly. That's just principles of statutory construction are such that it shouldn't be so overly broad that it would sweep in everything.
Councilor Roman?
Yeah. I'll also offer that I think this covers extraordinarily large businesses, PSE&G, Verizon, other large utilities. Any of these are conducting business within the township, and we're going to have to chase down insurance. And I wonder if there's anyone that might be self-insuring for liability. This doesn't appear to cover that at all. It appears to require you to pull a liability policy rather than some other means of financial responsibility. I would kind of agree that we need some sort of more detailed research and documentation to help us make a decision and craft a statute that actually meets the intent of the law, because I do feel like this is vastly overbroad.
I agree, and I think that we need to have if we are required to pass this, as with many things that the state forces us to pass, there should be minimal compliance to meet the spirit of the law. If we know that more compliance is going to create problems for our residents' ability to hire people at an economically appropriate cost. It's like I think you're putting the municipality, this municipality situation, like it's almost unenforceable to an extent. So you're passing unenforceable legislation, which I don't see the point in doing, when really there's no, unless you're hiring an investigator to troll the business registry records of the state of New Jersey, which right now are only accessible, some of them by fee. So now we're paying for that, to try and track people down and demand insurance. Like, you could form an LLC and, your insurance needs may be different than what is it here. It's like some.
Yeah, I mean, there are some business entities that are discarded entities, right? So, I mean, it's kind of indistinguishable from the individual. So there are concerns there. Also, I mean, the legislation largely focuses on ownership and not as much activity, which becomes very interesting with regard to the example that Councilman Roman brought forward about, PSE&G and others, because like if we're extending to operating within the municipal boundary, well, then that is massive.
Yeah.
Think about everybody that works from home. Like, I suspect that is not the intended effect of this. I would also like to similarly request an ethics review of how this would affect council members that either own their own business entities or have family members with their own business entities.
Every council member has to request that individually to the township attorney. We can't have a blanket. We can't have a blanket opinion. I've already requested it.
Yes.
De facto of that for myself.
And thus I am doing the same.
And again, the reason for that is everyone's facts might be different.
And again,
Depends on the facts.
I am doing so myself.
But for
And
the record, I will request it.
I established my facts of if you have a family member that owns one of these businesses or owns a business, whether or not that would also be disqualifying.
I encourage everybody to share with the township attorney their individual facts and circumstances.
I want to go back to the beginning that you brought up too. I also think that if this is a January 1st thing, we may have to hire somebody for the clerk's office for the week before or the 2 weeks before January 1st, if all these people are coming in. But real quick,
I don't think they'll have people
Yeah,
storming the doors. Just throwing it out there.
And one little Scrivener's error in 173-3 in B. The very end, we have one or more persons in. It has persons in.
Yeah.
So just separate that.
Yeah, thank you. I also just wanted to point out in the last paragraph, third paragraph under 173.2, there was just gendered language in referring to the police chief. So that could be revised. That would be great. Thank you.
All right. So I think I'll summarize by, if nobody has any objection, the council is unprepared to move forward on this at this time. We request significant additional information. We will contact you regarding individual circumstances, but also we would like to see what other towns are doing with this. We have the list of fees for other municipalities. It's probably just as easy to get their ordinances from those same ones as well. And I will say that I'm not in a rush necessarily to get this done if we're going to get it done wrong. I'd rather get something done right solely. And if the state has an issue with that, then they can spend their time and resources addressing that, which I do not think is going to happen. So, thank you. Any other new or unfinished business? Hearing none. At this time, I'll call for public comment on any matter. Same public comment statement applies. Seeing none, I close public comment. We have passed a resolution to go into an executive session. We will do so at this time. Will any official action be taken? No? Then we will see everybody the first Monday in December.